your surname. All right.
Oh,
Wesley McGuinness, welcome to Coffee and Conversations with Champions. Have to give you one of these. Yeah, very, very cool. Thank you so much for your time. Sorry to have kind of messed you around a little bit today,
oh, it's not a
but
problem.
really appreciate you accommodating us earlier. Just before we went live, I was, having a joke, and I'm sure you haven't ever heard that joke before, but yeah, at least I'm not getting the surname wrong because, yeah, I started drinking when I was 9 and I stopped when I was 36. So at least I can get that part right. But listen, firstly, I also wanted to say a very big thank you. And I know that we've got a lot to talk about, and I know sort of why you reached out. And because you're not just doing this powerlifting thing for yourself, you're doing it for a great many other people. So wanted to say thank you for reaching out. And you're actually the first person that we didn't have to nag to get on the show. So when I got your message, it really meant a great deal. I mean, even we've had one other, I won't mention the country, but I reached out to one of the another athlete, and they were like, sure, what are you going to pay me? So we won't,
Wow.
yeah, I won't mention the country. Let's just say it's a country that's really desperately trying to beat us in rugby and hasn't been
Right.
able to for the last few World Cups. And I think they also lost to us in a World Cup at home in 1995. So
Brilliant.
welcome to the show. Thank you for your time. Let's find out a little bit about who you are. Can you give us a little bit of your background?
Yeah, of course. I'm Petty Officer Wesley McGuinness. I'm a Royal Navy Submariner. I've been in the service for 17 years now, and I took an interest in powerlifting in the first year of being in the Royal Navy. So, and when I first started, there was no grassroots development. It was basically just a lot of trial and tested stuff. So, as I've got better, as I've improved over the years, I find it imperative that we do these grassroots sessions,
Mm-hmm.
because the grassroots is now a huge thing in the Royal Navy. It's
Right.
basically to deliver a foundation of particular sports that are affiliated in the Navy. So we every quarter, I think it's quarterly, we host these Navy Fit Festivals where we do a handful of sports, athletics, boxing, rugby, and we try and hook in the new talent. Not going to be powerlifting forever, so we try and
Mm-hmm.
effectively try and pass on the baton to the new talent and scope it out and pass on our perspectives and our experiences, our lessons in life, and then pass it on to them to put them in the best position possible for to start their journey, whatever sport they're taking on.
Right. Absolutely phenomenal. And I think the Navy does also have a very long history in terms of boxing as well, and boxing prowess in the armed services. So
Yeah.
very, very cool. What was the starting point for you to get involved in powerlifting? I mean, that's absolutely fantastic.
Well, I try and tell this at the most of the grassroots that I do. I started off at just being in the gym. I've always lifted weights and kept myself healthy, and then I saw a poster in the gym at HM Naval Base Devonport, and it said Royal Navy Powerlifting Championships at HMS Temeraire. So I entered it, and I wanted to test my 1 rep max on a squat, bench, and deadlift with no technique. It was just brute strength. And because powerlifting wasn't as big as it is now, I came away and won first prize in my weight category. And
Hang on.
it gave...
Got to give you one of those. Actually, no, I think this is something new we brought on to the show. We can do this as well. Well done.
But that little victory, it had such a profound impact on me. I went back and I thought, well, let's start looking at periodization. Let's start looking at dialing in on nutrition, everything to make me the best powerlifter I can be. So, fast forward 16 years with balancing my career, my job. I've progressively got better. And capitalized on some great opportunities I've had in the service and outside.
Sure. Absolutely, absolutely phenomenal. I love that. Just a small question, and I don't know if you're able to answer it, but who set up that first powerlifting competition?
It would have been it would have been people like Sean Cole and the initial team that got the powerlifting started basically in the
Right.
Navy. There was only a handful of them, but they basically got the ball rolling and then encouraged people like myself to get involved. And we've basically, as they've left the surface, we've took the reins and
Right.
just try to keep the ball rolling,
Sure.
and get better each time.
Oh, absolutely phenomenal. I love that because it's almost like the wonderful thing about the sport, any sport, is it's great to participate, it's great to take place, it's great to have the opportunity to compete. But all of those things that we're doing were set up by those who came before us. And
Of
so,
course.
sometimes started the sport. And it's our responsibility to make sure that we can actually push forward and carry, as you said, that baton and pass it on to the next generation, because it's not something that happens automatically.
No, it doesn't. It takes a great deal of time and effort, especially in the service. We're
Mm.
balancing our jobs, our family commitments, and all that kind of stuff. So I find it really important to just commit. Like we've got one on the 18th of June. I'll donate a couple of hours to teach, people who might want to get interested in the sport, or just learn the compound movements
Mm-hmm.
a bit better, safely and efficiently. And if we do that, I'm, like I said earlier on, I'm not going to be powerlifting forever, and it'll be great in a few years' time when I step back and see it develop even more, and seeing the other people take the lead and then deliver grassroots. So it's just watching that that trajectory of improvement over time. It's going to be just as rewarding as competing, I think.
It's absolutely fantastic. I know I'm going to be saying that a lot during this chat. Before we get into the competing and the different competitions, because I'd like to talk to you from a sort of an IPF competitive level, representing your country, but are there inter-services competitions as well? But before we do that, how valuable has powerlifting been to you, firstly as a submariner and then as someone involved in the armed services?
Oh, absolutely, and I'm sure there'll be a lot of people watching this who will agree. The qualities that we get in sport, we can carry over to our jobs and our life, even our family relationships and stuff like that. And it's only going to get stronger, I find. And you really dial in as you get better. Your nutrition gets better, your
Mm-hmm.
commitment, your recovery, all that kind of stuff just gets stronger and stronger as you stay in the sport, I find. And there's some really good core values that my job brings into powerlifting, and that powerlifting brings into my job. So they work together in harmony.
Absolutely. The big thing as well is what I found for me is powerlifting lets me know how well I'm looking after myself. As you were
Yeah,
saying, your
absolutely.
nutrition, if you're not getting the sleep, if you're not getting the food in that you need, if you're eating badly or you're not getting hydrated, the numbers on the bar don't lie. And the linear progression of our sport, which is so wonderful, if you have a dip, you know that there's something wrong. I don't know if you've ever experienced it, but like if you're going to be getting sick in a couple of days' time or a week's time, you kind of find out a little earlier on the bar.
Absolutely, yeah, you can feel it, can't you? And the proof's there. You know if you've not been sleeping well, or you've not been prioritizing your sleep. Let's just say that. Say you've been
Yep.
staying up a bit longer. I felt this as I've got older as well. If you're not going to bed a little bit earlier to make sure that you're that little bit more recovered for your
Mm-hmm.
next session, you feel it. And I've been victim of that before. But it's only as I've got older I've realised that sleep is just as important. Make sure you're eating correctly, because
Yep.
all you want to do as powerlifters is have that next good session.
Yep.
And that continuous improvement. A handful of good sessions is really important. There's
Mm-hmm.
nothing worse than having a handful of bad sessions, because it starts questioning what on earth are you doing now,
Yeah.
if that makes sense.
Oof. No, 100%. And that can absolutely be terrifying. And it's then hopefully that you start to look at other areas, because I went through some pretty rough. I mean, for 3 years, I couldn't break 125 on a squat or on a deadlift. But
Right, okay.
there was a lot more going on behind the scenes, physically and emotionally, that I wasn't even aware of, and I picked it up because of the lifting, that the numbers weren't moving. The bench went up to 165, but
Perfect.
but the other numbers didn't go anywhere. So it wasn't making much sense. Given what you do as a career, I mean, I think I can't think of any more stressful role, not only in the armed services, but in life than working on a submarine, than being a submariner. How has powerlifting helped you deal with that mental stress and strain?
I think you have to be quite mentally strong being a submariner with the the environment and the conditions it comes and the challenges, the everyday challenges
Yep.
it comes with it. So that's already played its part in becoming a powerlifter. But it's been challenging. It's not been easy at all, especially at the early stages. And balancing deployments
Mm.
and tasking in between, especially at the early stages of my career, was very frustrating. We're very limited with equipment on board. Let's just put it straight: we can't powerlift on board. You can
Right.
keep yourself fit, healthy, but there's not a chance that we can keep we can continue doing strength training on board. It's just not that kind of environment.
Right. I mean, the space is too precious. But how has powerlifting helped you do? Has powerlifting helped you do your job better?
Absolutely, yeah. You have to be quite headstrong. Powerlifting brings that into you, and then when you're deployed for a certain amount of time, it plays its part with keeping disciplined and
Mm.
committed to what you're actually doing at sea.
Yes.
And the job that you're doing. My background is catering, so I'm a senior caterer at the moment. But a few years ago, I used to be a chef, and then I got promoted to head chef. So
Right.
being a head chef on board, it's a huge responsibility. You've got 4 square meals a day to produce. We take 3 chefs to sea, and we've got to feed a crew of roughly about 130 people. So very demanding job with limited stores on board, different challenges to face,
Yeah.
maybe water restrictions, noise restrictions, all that kind of stuff. So there's a lot that comes with it.
I think that's just, let's pick the most stressful job in the Navy, submariner, and then let's pick, honestly, the most stressful job on the submarine
Yeah.
is is being the cook, preparing the food, and now you're in charge of that. So there you go.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you could do? That could be more stressful. I think because it's. I don't know if people really understand the responsibility of the cooks and those who are preparing the food for the servicemen and women. I don't think there's a bigger responsibility. Maybe medically you're dealing with one person, officer you're dealing with a small group. Everybody's relying on you, and for a
Oh, absolutely.
a huge component of their own mental health.
Yeah.
Which is absolutely, absolutely massive. Sure, an absolutely incredible thing.
It's one of the main sources of morale on board.
Yeah.
If the food's great, everyone's happy. If it's not, you get 130 people telling you it's not. So
Exactly.
it's a big responsibility, but it's a very rewarding job as well. At the early stages, I really enjoyed being in the kitchen and cooking for everyone on board. It was brilliant, very rewarding. And when I'm deployed, I don't really focus on training.
Hmm.
I just when I'm deployed, I just do my job to my best ability because that's what
Right.
I'm there for. And when I
Oh,
come back, yeah, I might lose a bit of strength, but it makes me hungry to get back into powerlifting again. And we put our bodies through a lot of stress, our joints, our ligaments and tendons and stuff. But
mm.
being away, it just lets everything just calm down again. And then when I used to come back, I just accepted that I'd lost strength, but I was hungry to get back underneath the barbell and start doing what I love. So it was a nice little break in between.
Oh, phenomenal. Let's chat a little bit about the competition and
Mm-hmm.
what are the different competitions that are available.
What in the Royal Navy or the Armed
Yeah, yeah.
Forces?
So, firstly, sorry, just looking at a call here. Firstly, at the Royal Navy level, and then also within IPF. So, what are the what are the different competitions available to you, and what are they like?
Well, recently we've had the national governing body changed over. We've now got British Powerlifting as the national governing body of Armed
Yes.
Forces Powerlifting, which is a great move forward.
Okay.
We
Fantastic.
started, it was great news. It's been a lot of work, but it's evolution of the sport. You have to get with the times and move forward, otherwise you're going to stagnate.
Yes.
So we start off at a base level. Every year we have a calendar, and we'll have Western regions, Northern region championships where people can come and get involved. And now we can have them as sanctioned qualifiers for future events as well, for national
Sure.
events. which is great, you know, and you can build up people's experience on how to prep better for events and all that kind of stuff. So there's a handful of seasoned lifters in the Navy powerlifting, and you know, we try and pass that information on to the new ones coming through who look startled. You know those ones that, you know, you're just starting your powerlifting your career and you're looking for advice. And I always start off, if I'm hosting an event or if I'm competing, I always say to them, look, reach out. There's a tremendous amount of experience from the officials to the referees, the guys working the table, the lifters. I was like, if you've got any burning desire questions, ask. Use this today as a competition, but also as a learning platform, so you can go away and prep yourself and put yourself in a better position for the next event. You know, and if you can do that, you know, you're improving.
That's such great advice to any lifter, but particularly new lifters, that all you have to do at a competition is ask. No one's really going to bite your head off. Everyone wants to help. And I think that's something that's very special about our sport. And that makes our sport so great. People wanting to help. Have you seen, have you got, before we talk about your career, some of the lifters that have come into the sport that are doing really well that you'd like to talk about?
Oh, there's some incredible people. Let me use an example. Elvis Brown, a good friend of mine, a leading chef he's a Submariner as well. 2017, I think he came to me. He was in the gym and he said, "Oh, Wes, can I get into powerlifting?" And I said, "Absolutely, come." And he's M2, I think now. He was M1 at the time, and I showed him how to powerlift. He did some grassroots, and let's fast forward. He came out to the Commonwealth in 2022, and from 2017 to 2022, he cleared up. He may correct me on this. 3 gold medals and a silver, and he got best lifter in the M1 category. So it just goes to show how just approaching someone and going, "Hey, how do I get into powerlifting?" He showed ultimate commitment, great training, and you know, he reaped the rewards in 2022, where he picked up a handful of medals and got awarded best lifter. So I always use Elvis as a good example. You know, there are many that are coming through now who are really starting their journey and getting qualified as officials, referees, and coaches, and all that kind of stuff. So it's really good to see people donating their time and interest and strengthening the sport.
Sure. Absolutely phenomenal, dude. What I wanted to ask, just a question that's come to mind now, and because for me, I'm finding this absolutely fascinating, just the 2 different lives and how they work so well together. For the younger guys that are powerlifting in high school, here's the question, if someone has a passion for powerlifting and they're in high school and they're not really sure what they want to do with the rest of their lives, maybe the opportunities aren't that great, why should, I better be careful here, because if I say why should they consider the Navy, and then obviously, and not say armed services, but let's just say Navy, because I'm chatting to a Navy man. And by the way, my ex-journeyman when I was an apprentice was an ex-Royal Navy officer. So let's stick with the Navy. He said something very interesting to me. He said the Army can always retreat, the Air Force can always fly away, but in the Navy you're there until the battle's over, where you either go home or you go down. So he was quite passionate, Brian Barnes, quite passionate about it. Yep. And so if someone is like, they're passionate about powerlifting, they've got a connection to the sport, would a career in the armed services in the Navy serve them well if they're looking for something to do after school?
Absolutely. You know, I've done a handful of talks around schools to maybe give them a bit of direction or signpost them off my own back as well. All you need is someone just to say, "Hey, have you ever thought about this?" You don't need to force anyone into it. Now, there's a handful of things that come with being in the armed forces. You know, job security, you know, a trade, a career, a pension. There's, you know, I could rattle off a load. But for me personally, sport, since taking it up in 16 years ago, has basically painted my pathway, my career pathway. As I've got better, it's allowed me to be put in positions in jobs and assignments so I can continue training. You know, there's been times where I've had to deploy and do stuff like that. But here's an example: when we did I-618, we did an exercise with 2 American submarines up in the North Pole, which is something we do every few years. And we surfaced at the most northerly point a submarine can break through the ice. And
Wow.
I'll find the video and I'll send it to you so you can put it out there
Please.
so people can see.
Absolutely.
I was a leading chef at the time, so I was a head chef on board, and everyone was going up on the ice. And I turned the galley off, I isolated the galley, and I took the barbell and a few of the weights up onto the ice. And everyone thought I was mad. They said, "What's going on, Wesley?" I said, "Get that up there now." So let me paint a picture here. It was minus 37 degrees at the most northerly point a submarine can surface, and I got a set of squats and deadlifts up on there. I got the lads to put the barbell up there.
Hang on, we need one of these. And I think a little bit of confetti will be appropriate for that. Brilliant.
Thank you.
Hey,
but
wow.
It was an opportunity, and this is what I try and tell people. I was like, that was an opportunity out of nowhere, and I thought, all I said to myself is, I'm never going to have the opportunity to do this again. And we recorded it on our phones, which could only last for like a few minutes underneath, under the conditions. People were playing cricket and all that kind of stuff, and I thought that's very unique. And it went viral on the internet. A lot of people were using that as like, "What's your excuse?" This is at the North Pole today. Under crazy conditions. But I'll get the video for you. You got the submarine in the background, and you got the barbell, and then all the lads are cheering me on. It's a great. But that's another selling point. There's not just that opportunity. There's so much out there.
Sure. I think could that be the most northerly squat and deadlift, you think?
Yeah,
absolutely.
I tried applying with the world records, but they declined it. But I'm taking it as a personal win.
Yeah, no, 100%. We'll keep on at them. Everyone that I speak to within powerlifting says, for most people, there's many things that people love about the sport, but the thing that is the most special and dear to the majority of people I've spoken to is the community and the incredible value in the community. Is there a similarity with that within the armed services? Just thinking about young people that love powerlifting because of the community. Maybe they're coming from a challenge background where their neighborhoods are not so safe, the environment is not so safe. I think of my development academy guys, where we develop young coaches, we develop young members of our streaming team, and they come from very challenged environments and communities. Those on the street, the kids on the street are not the best influence, for them. There's a big drug issue, and they gravitate to powerlifting because it's a safe place and a safe community. What parallels would you draw between that and being in the armed services?
I've seen it a few times, actually. I've seen people come into powerlifting who aren't that disciplined, not that committed, and then watching them understand the sport a little bit better each time, and then realize, I need to be disciplined, I need to be committed, and watching them go from just your regular person to and seeing their strength improve as well. It's incredible, and then them reach out to me and say, "Hey, Wes, when are you doing the next Grassroots, or when's the next this? Can I come along and do a talk?" And it's great to see them go, "You weren't that person not long ago, and now you are." So I totally relate to that.
Oh, love it. By the way, we got one of these for you from Kate Clark. I mean, that's, got it. And I'll add to that with the hearts. There you go, Kate. I'm adding some hearts there. So they're a very, very special person and a huge asset to your powerlifting community and ours, the entire powerlifting community, Kate. Very, very cool.
The community is great. I like lifting. I like competing, but what I like to do on the evening, is get together and meet people, and put powerlifting aside and get to meet people properly, their background, their story, and then over the years, it's just got stronger and stronger. The community through the bench team, the Commonwealth team, the full power team, everyone just gets together, and it's incredible to see.
Well, speaking of the bench team, there's a young doctor by the name of Rachel Steedman who's watching us on Instagram. So we better be behaved. So, how big an assistance or big an asset has the Grassroots initiative been to what you're wanting to do in terms of growing the sport? What has that support from the Navy meant to you and to those participating?
Oh, it's made a huge difference. I not long ago I did a data survey. My work day wasn't so busy, so
Mm.
I correlated all of the last 12 months of grassroots that I've hosted in the southwest and across the country, and I worked out who'd attended, how memberships grown, participation in recent events. Have I seen more people, the same people, go to another competition and continue powerlifting instead of just stopping and leaving? I'd seen so
Sure.
much growth in there over the last 12 months. I put a data survey together and sent it to the head of Navy Sport, where they can take on that data and see our sport growing. Our main aim at the moment is that we're a Category 2 sport, and we're trying to drive that to be a Category 1 sport.
Right.
So that kind of stuff is, paramount to raise the awareness of the benefits to the sport, the growth of the sport, and how the grassroots development stuff is really being a driving force to strengthen our
Sure.
association.
Can you give us a bit of a rundown on what is a Category 2 sport and what is a Category 1 sport?
So I think there's like 56 sports in the Royal Navy, and they're
Mm-hmm.
all broken down to Category 1 to Category 2 and 3. So Category 1 would be like football, I think golf, rugby.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't say the interesting sports, but the big profile sports at the moment, And I think when I started, powerlifting was a tier 3 or a Category 3 sport. So we're moving in the right direction. But what we need is people to commit. We need people to
Mm.
get qualified as officials. We need people to get qualified and understand how to spot and load, run the table. All these kind of the
Mm-hmm.
final logistics of an event for us to really look professional and put that professional mark on our events, whether it's a navy, a regional navy champs or the inter services. So we're really driving hard on that, and I'm trying to get as much people qualified to strengthen the association.
Right. So just on that point, what would you like to see happen for the sport in the Navy, and what do you need? So you want guys stepping forward, taking responsibility, taking on the roles of running the comp, learning how to ref, learning how to spot and load, run the table. What are the things that you ideally would like to see happen?
I'd like to see people try and take the lead of, even if it's just bite-sized competitions, in the northern
Mm.
region or the Midlands or wherever establishment or naval base or you're at, maybe just reach out and say, look, I want to run a competition here. We've got a bit of interest here in the gym, and even if it's only like 6 or 7 people, you can run a bite-sized competition, and really, it doesn't have to be a fast-paced one. You
Mm-hmm.
can, reach out to the team and myself and just say, look, all British powerlifting, there's many people who are willing to help and just say, have you thought about this, and this? And, there will be mistakes made, but, that's how they grow. So they could run a bite-sized competition and then, do an end of competition, like feedback chat,
Mm-hmm.
for a few minutes. Look, where could areas of improvement here? And then they feed that back to the association, the committee and the representatives, and then we can feed that back to Temera and say, well, this is how we need to improve.
Right. Fantastic. The I'm getting a huge sense, and just in speaking to you, of the selflessness of what you're doing and the passion for your job and for the sport. So, another one of these, please. Hell, we're even going to give you a clap of thunder and lightning. There we go. Where's my dream is to be a 1970s DJ. So really, you're a huge asset to the sport, and
Thank you.
your passion is very, very clear and evident.
Mhm.
On a bit of a fun note, in terms of the different branches of the armed service, who's got the best powerlifting team? Who's got the best? Well, we know the Navy's got you, so the best powerlifter. But who's got the best? Who's winning the most in the competitions in between the different branches?
I'd have to look. I'll have a look back and have a look through the data, but I'll drop you a message and give you an answer on that. Um,
Very well, for good political. You have a future in politics, sir. It's like what? Yep. Sorry.
yeah.
Yep. You got to be going. Where's our air support? There's no air support until you apologize about the powerlifting competition. So, just before we chat about you and your career in lifting, I've got a goal. So this is what I'd like to put out into the universe, that for your retirement from the Navy, I don't think so much from the sport, but from the Navy, is that they are able to get you and a couple of other lifters, maybe some of the other armed services, up to that northerly point, and you have the world's fastest and coldest powerlifting competition there. I think that would be a wonderful retirement gift. That'd be kind of cool, huh? Don't know how we're going to do the bench press, but maybe just a
Oh,
squat and deadlift comp, because you end up frozen to the bench. No singlets required.
it'll be a quick competition, I tell you
Yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah. You can weigh in afterwards. It's fine. But I mean, that would be such incredible publicity and something that would be really special. And then the big problem is, as you mentioned, the Americans are there, so they're going to want to get involved. And the next thing you know, there's 360 lifters.
Yeah.
You're
Well,
building
we've
a
got an incredible
warehouse.
coming
Yep,
up here. I
yeah,
mean, we've got an incredible this year called the Hands Across the Sea.
right.
First of its kind. So we're going to see. I'll give you a quick brief on what it'll
Please.
be. It'll be 30 of our tri-service armed forces powerlifters, spread across all three services against Powerlifting America's military lifters. So we're hosting it here in Plymouth on the 22nd of November at HM
Sure.
Naval Base Devonport. The logistics have all started for that now. The ball started rolling, and we're going to host them. And then we're basically going to go to battle to find out who's the strongest side of the pond.
Yeah. Oh, that will be epic. Are you allowing civilians to come and watch?
We can do, as long as we get the names on the forms
Yeah.
in plenty of time to get people down. And then the following year, they're going to host us in Las Vegas, Nevada. So it's, yeah, next year's looking promising.
Hold on a second. You're hosting at a naval base, and the Americans are hosting in Vegas.
Yeah, it's going to be great. There's a lot of work getting done behind the scenes by
Wow, that's
a few
phenomenal.
people.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay. I think we got to chat. Got to find a way to come and live stream that. I mean, I know you got your awesome live streamers, but there's got to all come and do the set up the podcast desk there. That would be phenomenal. Wow, that's incredible. Because I think it's something that's it's so important, and we keep harping on. But before we get to your lifting, which I promise we will, I hope people understand the importance of those who choose the path of service as their lives and as careers, because it really is you putting your head on the pillow at night, safe and sound, and can sleep, because guys and girls are getting up and willing to leave their families for weeks, months, on deployment, put themselves in harm's way so that we at home can get on with our daily lives and have our hopes and dreams and aspirations. I don't often struggle to speak, but I get quite emotional about this, and because growing up in South Africa, national service at my time, and it was under a different government, but you see friends that go off and sometimes they don't come back. So I
Yeah.
hope people do understand how important this is, and the level of respect and admiration and appreciation that must be given. And what
Oh,
you,
absolutely.
what you're doing is
Absolutely.
incredible. Yeah. So
I think we're the,
well, go
I
ahead.
think we're the only that do CASD, which is a continuous at sea deterrent. So for the last 56 years, I think I might have that correct. We were the only nation who's had a submarine go around and protect our country for the last 50 plus years.
Sure.
And these deployments that these submarines are going on now are 200 plus days.
Wow.
That's down and deep, no connectivity from the outside world, and protecting our nation's interests, and our security. So they, it's a very rewarding job, but also a very demanding job as well from our submariners.
It takes a very, very special person, very special
It takes
person.
a certain family as well, the
Yeah.
strain. I always think, the strength from our submariners come from our families back home.
Yeah. On that point, I should have mentioned that. My apologies. With some of the powerlifting competitions, are the families getting involved? Is there support
Yeah.
coming there? What's that like?
you see them, you see the families, the kids, and that understanding what they're doing, they're training. My girls have come and watched me a few times. I've got my home gym where I'm at the moment. They see
Yeah.
me in here most, and they understand. They when they see me compete, whether it's live on Good Lift, through YouTube and stuff,
Mm-mm.
they understand what I'm doing in here.
Absolutely
But
phenomenal.
it's also a good thing because they're massively into their gymnastics at the moment. So, I'm trying to show them the commitment and all the core values that my sport brings in that, can evidently be passed on to their sport, and trying to demonstrate to them the
Mm-hmm.
commitment that I've been doing will evidently get you where you want to be
Yep.
in time. Just be
In
patient.
time, be patient.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah.
For me, that's what I love about the sport, and I've been very fortunate in my 18. I've been sober for 18 years, and working
I
with.
think that deserves a buzz, doesn't it? I think that deserves a buzz in itself.
Yeah, all right, there we go. Thank you. Yeah, appreciate
So,
it. Hang on, I'm going to pick the wrong one now. There, actually.
there you go.
Yeah, when I get new toys on the stream, it's too much fun. But yeah, thank you. Uh, Listen, exercise is what got me through this. Training is what got me through, because I had to
Perfect.
come home from work or go to my meetings for 2.5 hours at the rehab center that I was at, and then come home where I would usually just go straight to the pub and drink, and not having that opportunity to drink and not having that opportunity to be in the pub. Now being home with empty time and being alone with my thoughts is the most terrifying thing that I've ever experienced, because I didn't yet have the skill set to deal with my demons. But what
Right. Okay.
exercise gave me was, because I was in such horrible shape, it gave me the opportunity to put myself physically into a very dark hole where
Mm-hmm. Of
my demons couldn't find me, if I could put that simply.
course.
And those, it would quiet those voices. So it's something that I'm very grateful for. I've been able to
Perfect.
coach some amazing addicts into winning at Commonwealth, winning at international comps. Something that makes me really proud. So very, very
Oh,
cool.
it's perfect. It's great
Mm.
that you've been a real life example to pass on. Again, we're talking about this passing the baton on, to
Yep.
these other boys and girls that may be in that kind of place, and all they need is a conversation or a little bit of signposting, and
Yeah.
they dodge that kind of that dark hole, that rabbit hole
Yeah.
that you were leaning into. So it's really, really good.
Cool. Thank you, Rez. Let's chat now. Another one of these about Wesley McGuinness. Tell us about your lifting career.
Well, like I said, I started off at Royal Navy Powerlifting Champs 16 years ago.
Winning your first comp. Yep, there. It's a good way to start.
Over the course of 16 years, I had the privilege to be selected at the Arnold Sports Festival
Sure.
under Pete Stone. That was the first time I did a bench GB event. We did that, and we had Arnold Schwarzenegger sat on the front. That was one of the big moments of my life.
Wow.
Everyone, he came and he watched the powerlifting, which was incredible. Great opportunity. I've been selected for multiple World Bench Championships, European Bench Championships, 3 Commonwealth Championships. I've just took the opportunities that were there and try and enjoy the journey and meet good people. And like I say, my career has basically painted my pathway. So I'll give you an example. In 2021, when I first got selected for the World Championships at the Bench Champs in Lithuania, I came back, and then I was approached by the head of Navy Sport, and he offered me the opportunity to enroll onto the Royal Navy Elite Athlete Scheme, where you can apply for it, and if it gets approved, you can be removed from your core role and powerlift for full time, be a full time athlete. So there was a handful of us who could who've been elite on the elite athlete scheme. I requested by the CEO at the time was Mr. Richard Parker.
Yep.
I asked him, I said, would you support me? I'd like to be released for 24 months so I could, reach my not my full potential, but really push myself. And then he was happily agreed, and a handful of other people agreed. It went all the way up to the second Sea Lord, and the director of people and training in the Navy, admirals, and it got approved. So I spent 2 years being a full-time athlete, doing the grassroots and the competing, and it was incredible. It was incredible. A lot of people said it wouldn't happen because of powerlifting not being a tier 1 sport, but I think they saw potential. They seen what they would get for, bang for their buck. They weren't just getting someone who was lifting. He was good, doing the grassroots development. I was doing talks at naval bases to, encourage the phase 2 trainees to the opportunities that Royal Navy sport offer you. I thought they must have thought, yeah, we can get a lot out of Wes in them 24 months, And then on the back of that, I went back into the Submarine career, and I was basically put into positions to not undo any of that hard work, if that makes sense.
Yep.
So I've been put into assignments where I can continue supporting the Submarine career and develop my career, and promotion and all that kind of stuff, but also continue my training regularly and compete and do my charity work and all these kind of these external things as well. So, the last half of my career of nearly 20 years has been squared away through sport, which has been an incredible opportunity. And I thank all those who've been involved.
That's absolutely phenomenal, but earned every day on a daily basis. Because it's when you have that opportunity, you show up even more, and to honor it. Absolutely phenomenal. For the future, what does the future hold? Are there things that you can share, that you can talk about? What plans and hopes and dreams?
Well, at the moment, like I said, we're planning the Hands Across the Sea event at the moment. I've just recently come back from World Bench. Obviously, that's why I've got the T-shirt.
Great. Let me zoom you out there a little bit so everyone can see the T-shirt. Hang about. Oop, there we go. Phenomenal shirt. Oh, that was awesome. Yeah.
Say that I was a reserve. Internationals wasn't really on my calendar this year. I did the nationals and I placed on the podium. I showed my interest, and I was a reserve for about 8 weeks. And I thought, it's not going to be this year, Wesley. It's not going to happen. And the day before final nominations went in, unfortunately, one of the gentlemen had to drop out, and I got an email saying, "Congratulations, you made the team." So it just goes to show, just keep training, stay focused. And I had 3 weeks to prep. I'd been training anyway, but I did a bit of a mini peak. And I went on to the world stage again for the 3rd time, and had the best performance of my competition. I benched 200, nice and clean. I got 9 out of 9 lights. And yeah, it was brilliant. I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Only one thing to do. And let's go for some fireworks. All right, there we go again. Okay, hang on, wait. You want some balloons? That's. But
I've showed my interest. We maybe have the European bench this year,
right, in
Malta. I said, look, I'm available. I'm more than happy to come out. But that's what it looks like for me. I've got Euros. Oh, I've got a competition in 8 weeks actually, full power.
Okay.
So I've got that the SBD Southern qualifier. So that'll be my next full power, and then I think after Euros I'll finish the year on the Hands Across the Sea for full power.
Wow, absolutely epic. The one thing also that I just want to touch on again, and we're coming up with absolute gold here. I'm loving this conversation. Is what you spoke about, where you had 3 weeks to prep for a world championships, but you didn't let yourself down with your training, with thinking, oh, it's never going to happen, and then allowing the training to dip off, where you keep on at it as if you are training for a world championships. That's such a healthy and powerful mindset.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's something I've had to develop over the years, because you just got to think to yourself, there's always a chance, and if I can put myself in the best position possible, and if it doesn't happen, at least I've done everything in my power, and my training there's no disadvantage there. That training will always carry over to the next meet or the next competition. So I try and say to people that, stay hopeful, keep focused, because you never know. But if you stop though, Emmett, the guarantee is you're not going to be ready.
You're not going to be ready. Yeah, absolutely. I've been chatting with an American lifter, Mike Rodriguez, who is retired Army Ranger, retired FBI, and he was telling me now he just won. He got best lifter. He won his equipped and classic in 3 lift and in bench now. So
Oh, nice.
absolutely incredible. And he's coming out to South Africa for World Masters. So just saying, I better be careful with my chirps between the two, because what I was going to say is it going to be a problem for you? Well, it's not going to be a problem because Commonwealth is in Canada, and as long as you don't fly through the US, if you beat the Americans in November, they might have some visa problems for you. So hopefully
No,
not.
it's like, you know, you've got Vegas and then you've got the Commonwealth, which would be quite nice to do. So
Yep.
another busy year.
Absolutely. Then 2027 South Africa World Bench. Is that something
Even
that you
better.
look at coming out to? Yep.
Absolutely. Stay fit and healthy. You know, I'll always offer my interest to the team.
Yeah.
You know, bring Jakey Ferran out with me as well, the coach who helps support the team wherever possible. So I come with a bit of a
Brilliant.
package, really. You know,
Yep.
I've never been a big one for just competing and then disappearing.
Yeah.
I think even though powerlifting's an individual sport, it's also a team sport. You know, we thrive and we do better when we've got people around us, whether that's loading and spotting or even just out in the crowd cheering me on. You know, when I did Worlds just recently, you know, I had a big crowd, you know, and I could hear them, and it just gave me that little bit more of, you know, oomph on the platform. So it does play its big part.
Yep.
It's all about giving back to the sport, I think.
I
A lot
think
of people are really.
we get back so much more from what we give to the sport rather than what we get from competing. Competing is great, but being part of this community is absolutely invaluable. So
Absolutely.
very happy to hear we might be seeing you in South Africa, holding thumbs for that. Going to be something special. The reason that I was a little bit late, I went to go fetch Harney Smith. I offered to fetch him from his farm and give him a lift to the airport because I wanted to pick up some gear. So he also sends his regards. And you know, we're chatting about some of the locations that we're looking at around South Africa for the upcoming comps, and there's some spectacular locations. So
Lovely.
a very, very cool place to come to. A couple of questions, and my usual traditional questions we'll go into, and then we'll chat. I want to chat a little bit more about your lifting, but 4 questions I ask all my guests. First 2 are a bit of fun. So first off, what do you love about powerlifting?
I love about powerlifting. It's a strong question. That I love the continuous self-improvement, to be honest. You know, power, it's numbers, isn't it? And numbers just keep on going. So, you know, you can total 800, but you'll always look back at your videos and go, oh, maybe 802 or 805 in there. So there's never that satisfaction, is there?
Yeah.
So I'm always hungry to get back underneath the bar and start training hard. So I find that's what I love about powerlifting. It's just you can always improve and get bigger and stronger.
Oh, I love that. It's it's so true. Why does the bar always look lighter and the lift easier when we look back at it than when we're under the bar? Yeah, I don't understand that. I don't think there's a powerlifter who's ever gone, I can't believe I got that up.
Yeah.
For a little bit of fun, what drives you mad about powerlifting?
I would say, well, we've just talked about it there, the selfish of it, you know, people not helping and committing and just giving a bit. Like when we go to South Africa, when I was there with you last time, we're getting out there. I scheduled my time out there where I relaxed by the pool for a bit. I had a bit of downtime. I socialized. I committed to the team. You know, I'd help people on the day. I'd go down and support. Not all day. You know, I'd sit in the crowd for a bit, cheer them on. And I think that's what drives a little bit about powerlifting is people just do their bit and disappear. I think it's all about that team ethos. It is getting better. We're trying to not weed them out, but try and educate them that this is the way the sport should be going. So I would say that was when you see people just get up, get the medal and disappear, and then spend the rest. I get it because they spent a lot of money and stuff like that on the holiday. But you've got to get that balance right where you're at least coming down to support the team to a certain degree.
A very important point, and I want to chat to you about that. But before I do, I think I found a solution. I'll spend more time at the pool in a Speedo, and then we'll have more people leaving the pool and coming back to the venue. But I don't think, and I hope, and I think this is perhaps the reason that I don't think people realize how valuable they are to the sport. and what it
Mhm.
actually means to be cheered for, or how valuable your cheering is, how valuable you arriving at the back and going, can I help load weights? How valuable
Yeah.
your presence is in supporting it. And I see it as well in South Africa where, and I understand people have family commitments, but they arrive, they lift, and they leave, even when they've been in
Mhm.
the sport for 20, 30 years, and it
Yeah.
just, we want everyone to be part of the community. Just help out. If you're an experienced lifter, chat to some of the younger lifters that are hanging around the venue. Sit in the front and watch for a couple of hours. People don't realize how valuable they are.
And just by sitting and watching, you're learning as well. You're
Yep.
seeing things because make mistakes, and you can carry that over to your training and your gym or your club or
Yeah.
whatever. So there's no disadvantage from it. You're always learning, and it is widely appreciated by all those who are competing. Whether it's just running and, do you need me to fill your water bottle up or whatever? It really does make a big difference.
100%. And I couldn't have said it better. There's no negative outcome from being there and putting in a little bit of extra time at a competition. So that
Mhm.
the third question, a little bit more serious. What has powerlifting given you?
Um, Many opportunities. We've just talked about it.
Mm-hmm.
It's painted my pathway of my career. It's given me opportunities to go on the elite scheme. Um, it's offered sponsorship opportunities with external people. It's offered me so much. Even being in positions now to continue powerlifting, I'm based at home, so I get to spend time with my wife and my kids and my dog.
Sure.
So they're always fortunate of them opportunities as well. I have that. I'm a lot fortunate than most.
Mm.
To be home and spend quality time with them. So um, yeah, it's been a blessing.
Sure.
Sport has.
It's a blessing that's worked for every day.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Fourth question, I got the idea from the Ice Bucket Challenge. Not that we have to do an ice bucket, but in terms of nominations, is there anyone you'd like to nominate to come on the podcast? Effectively, this is just my bullying scheme to keep
Oh,
people coming in.
let me have a little think.
Yeah.
Um, um, you've put me on the spot now. Let me have a little thing. There's so many people. I could bring Jakey Ferran on, but I don't think you'd understand. He's got this strong Glaswegian accent, and we'd have to probably put uh,
Google Translate to its maximum.
a transcript or something,
Yeah,
So
yeah. Well, I mean,
I'll have a
would you
think. I
both
can't
come
think
on?
of the
Would you come on together?
Oh, it'd be like a comedy sketch, I think.
Brilliant. Cool. Yep. Can we put his name down for that?
Yeah, let's put him down for it. I'll speak to him later on
Done.
and let him know.
Love it. We got that. Excellent. Then you gave me an idea of your American counterparts in powerlifting. Is there anyone that's going to be coming out for the competition that you think we should chat to?
Oh, I'm not sure, to be
Mm,
honest. I haven't done my background checks or my
yeah.
homework on anyone just yet. We're still at the early
Are
stages.
they staying off good lift?
But if I find anyone, I'll drop you a
Oh,
quick
brilliant.
message and to get
That
them on there. But
that'll be
by
absolutely
the posts
fantastic.
I've
Yep.
seen, by the posts I've seen and stuff, they're quite excited to come over here. So we're looking forward to hosting them
Yeah.
and demonstrate what we're capable of an event we can host. Really, it's going to be great.
Oh, also, so it's also going to be putting on something spectacular.
Yes, oh, absolutely. We've got the IPF. We're going to be doing a banquet like we do at the IPF
Mm-hmm.
Championships.
Oh,
We've got the Royal Navy Royal Marines band to do the opening and closing ceremony.
sure.
We've got some sponsors coming in who are going to back it. We've got all the media team that cover most of the national series, and the new, I
Oh,
believe,
beautiful.
I might have this right, using the British Powerlifting National Series kit that we've just got. So it's going to be incredible.
Oh, wow. Okay, 100%. That's are you so it's a great question for the army. Do they have to wear their berets and their singlets?
I don't know. Maybe we can bring that into policy. I
So,
don't
yeah.
know, but
Yeah. Well, it'll help you with a head lift on the bench, so which will be a little
oh
bit
yeah.
of fun. Yeah. From your side, is there anything that you'd like to chat about or discuss in terms of
Um,
lifting or your career as well, or both?
Well, we've talked about the grassroots development. We've talked about like my career, my pathway, and a few, some achievements I've done, which has always been good. But a big part of my powerlifting over the last years, like in 2022, I did the Commonwealth, I did the bench only, I did the full power. And I said to this before we went live, I said 2022, unfortunately, on my last one of my deadlifts, my bicep snapped, unfortunately, it fully detached. And I went to New Zealand. You know, when all the prep's going perfectly and you think this is going to be a great total, everything's coming together. I went to New Zealand so strong, physically and mentally. And bench went well. I medalled on there, medalled in the full power. And then on my last deadlift, just to get that total I was after, it just went. And I was in a dark place there, like you were mentioning earlier on. You have a major injury like that, and you think, wow. And it wasn't just my powerlifting that I thought was jeopardized; it was my career. I thought, well, what am I going to do? I've got responsibilities at home and all this kind of stuff. So my head was spinning. I had a lot of things running through my mind, and basically, I'll keep this short, but this is what I try and talk about at some of my talks as well. Is what was done was done. I accepted it pretty quickly that I had injured myself. And then Jakey said to me, he says, but Wes, what a great opportunity this will be to use this as a platform to demonstrate to other lifters in the armed forces and the wider powerlifting community on how you can come back from an injury physically, mentally, and are more resilient. So we sat down, I got I got surgery, and we did everything by the letter. We stuck with it. And, we demonstrated to others the tools that you need to come back from an injury. Because we do get injured, we try and maintain ourselves as well as possible. But, sometimes things happen.
Yeah.
And when they do, you've really got to muster up them core, those things that really get you through that dark place. So I did a talk at SBD HQ not long ago, one of the bench days, on this kind of thing a bit more in depth, and the tools that I used, the support network, the cognitive behavior therapies and stuff I researched on how to tackle these things. And I just tried to pass on, because there could be people that may injure themselves later on and they'll go, oh, I remember what Wes was talking about. So there was a lot of support out there, but there was a few people thought, oh, where's that you done powerlifting? And I thought, I'll decide, not you.
So just going to say, how big of a driving factor was being told that you're done?
Yeah, exactly that. And that kind of lit the fire as well. But it's just a scar on my arm now. And I'll be honest, I'm stronger now than when I was in New Zealand, physically, mentally, emotionally. And I always thought I was very well disciplined in my sport. But since my injury happened and what I had to learn, I feel like I turned a few pages, and I've actually realized what I'm capable of.
That is phenomenal. That it's just, and I think what you shared now is literally life-saving advice, because
Absolutely.
Our sport can become such a large part of our identity, not from any weakness of character perspective, but just it demands so much of your life. So it becomes a large. It's like it's a loss, like a death or a divorce or any traumatic loss. That ability to train and stay on the path and stay on the goals. And I think with powerlifting as well is because it's so linear that you get a hit like that. So what you shared is huge. It's just advice for understand, follow the letter, get the advice, get the support, do the work, and it's not the end of the road. It's only the end of the road if you give up.
Exactly that.
Sure. Absolutely phenomenal. Thank you. Instagram always give us like an hour. So we've got like, I think just under a minute left. So I just want, firstly, absolutely epic gym, by the way. We didn't even touch on that. Tell us about what's going on behind you quickly as we wrap up.
So I'll take off the magnet, see if we can get it there. Yeah. So, during COVID, my wife said to me, Wesley, why don't we turn the garage into a gym? So, we stripped everything out of here. We sold what we didn't need. We painted it. Over time, we've got a combo rack. We've got calibrator plates. I've got support from certain people like Alico, SBD.
Oh, well done,
we remember
guys.
Submariners. we remember Submariners because I'm an ambassador for the charity there,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and then, you know, some bits and pieces. I got my picture with Arnold there.
Whoa! Hey, got to zoom in on that. Give me 1 second there. That is fantastic. Wow. Okay. You're making Arnold look small, by the way.
I know.
Yeah.
Oh, and then my wife said to me, "Get all of them and put them all in the garage, please, Wesley, because they take." But no, it's been a great journey. You know, I think there's a lot of support out there. You know, you just got to reach out, meet them halfway, give back to the sport, and you know, it's evident. You know, the support out there. So I'm having a great time. I'm having a great journey, and may it continue.
Oh, long may it continue. I look forward to chatting to you after multiple conversations in Master 6 when it becomes a new category. So, you know, that's my that's my wish for you, and that you're also able to continue doing this incredible work that you do, because we don't understand the profound differences that it can have in people's minds and
Oh,
lives.
absolutely.
Yeah, sure. I'm going to end the live stream, and I'll just chat to you quickly off air in a few secs.
Absolutely.
Brilliant.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you for joining us, Wesley McGuinness. Got to give you another one of these, man. Absolutely epic. Thank you so much for reaching out. Thank you for watching, guys. Like really, I'm on a high. I'm on cloud 9 after this conversation. Great. We'll chat to you now, Wesley. Take care. Bye.